about the hierarchy of biological organization. And in this image, you see this pyramid structure. We're going to start at the very top. And as we go through these various levels, you can sort of associate these with the chapters in your textbook, especially in the first few chapters. So in chapter 2, we start with the chemistry of life. And at the very top of the pyramid, we can see the chemical level of organization. So at the chemical level of organization, this is non-living. This is composed of things like elements like hydrogen and oxygen, nitrogen and phosphorus, etc. And so these elements can combine to form three-dimensional structures. And you can see an example here, water molecule. So this would be just one example, but this is still at the chemical level. We have other macromolecules that will form structures within the body, but those structures by themselves, those three-dimensional chemical structures, are not living. In chapter 3, we come to the cellular level of organization. The cellular level of organization, this is where we see the smallest, most basic life. In a cell is capable of performing all of the functions associated with life. So this is the smallest living unit. In this particular image, we can see a smooth muscle cell. A smooth muscle cell is composed of those smaller macromolecules that are formed by those chemical elements. But again, those chemical elements by themselves are non-living, but then when we put them all together in a cell, now we have a living structure. So that's the cellular level. We have all types of different cells in the body. A muscle cell is just one example. You have epithelial cells, fat cells, liver cells, heart cells. There's all kinds of cells in the body. So this is just one example that you see in this image. Now, on the next level, this is going to be the tissue level of organization. The tissue level of organization, this will correspond with chapter 4 in your textbook. When you have a group of cells that are similar in structure and similar in function, they will form a tissue. So with the example that we had with the smooth muscle cell, when we have a group of smooth muscle cells that are grouped together, we now have smooth muscle tissue. And just like smooth muscle cell is one example of a cell, smooth muscle tissue is only one example of the many types of tissues that we see in the human body. Then at the next level, this is the organ level. So when we get beyond chapter 4, when we start going into chapters 5 through, we'll cover through chapter 15 in Anatomy and Physiology 1, we're going to be talking about organ systems. But before we get to organ systems, we have to talk about organs. When you have a group of tissues, different tissues that are grouped together in a structure that carries out a specific function, that is the organ level. So, for example, here you have the urinary bladder. The urinary bladder is composed of smooth muscle that we saw in the previous level, but also the urinary bladder is composed of epithelial tissue and connective tissue. So we have multiple types of tissues that form this structure, this organ that carries out a specific function. Then we come to the next level. The next level is the organ system level. When you have a group of organs that work together to perform various life functions, vital life functions, that is the organ system level. So using the example with the urinary bladder, along with the kidneys, the ureters, and the urethra, those organs form the organ system, the urinary system. The urinary system performs a vital life function of excretion. It gets rid of metabolic waste. So that's the organ system level. So chapters 5 through 15, we're going to be talking about various organ systems. And then at the very base of the pyramid is the most complex level. This is the organismal level. So because this is human anatomy and physiology, we're going to be talking about the human as the organism. So with the human, we have 11 organ systems. We have the integumentary system, the skeletal system, the muscular system, nervous system, endocrine system, etc. Those organ systems work together to maintain human life. And so that's going to be the most complex level.